All right, welcome and thank you everyone for joining us for today's Q&A Cafe on SAP Web Client for Business One and FP 2202 feature updates with your host, Daryl Goodman. My name is Sabine and I'll be your facilitator today. We'll be recording today's session, so everyone will remain on mute and we'll reserve some time at the end for your questions. You can enter your questions into either the question or chat boxes on your GoToWebinar dashboard. And I will be sending up video recordings to everyone here today, and we will also have it posted on our YouTube channel. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Daryl.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Daryl Goodman. I'll come through introductions in just a moment, but very excited to have you here for today's Q&A Cafe. We're going to start with just some welcome and introductions. Today, I've actually also updated the agenda here to be able to include some roadmap items. So we'll be talking about what's upcoming as well as what's recently come out in Feature Pack 2202. Then we'll talk about the SAP Web Client, some key features and analytics. We'll do a demo, and then, as Sabine mentioned, we'll have the Q&A session at the end. So please, if there are any questions, enter them, and we'll make sure to be able to address them. So again, my name is Daryl Goodman. I'm a director at VistaView Solutions on the SAP Business One business unit, and have had the opportunity to spend a little over 15 years with VistaView through Achieve It Solutions prior, and all in SAP Business One space. And so, from this perspective, I'm very excited to be talking about the SAP Business One web client and SAP version 10 as a whole. We'll go through and talk about some of the great things that SAP has done. And so with that, what I want to kind of do is kind of work through, understand working with the core and web clients. So one of the great things about the approach that SAP has taken is that we continue to have access to the client that you've traditionally used. This particular one is SAP Business One version 10.0 on SQL. So this is the SQL interface. Many of the clients are running SQL. Of course, some of you are running HANA as well. And one of the great things about the way that the client works is that it gives you the ability to kind of personalize your display. And so here we're looking at the cockpit and, of course, our login with the menu options. Now, this is a full-featured experience that's going to be able to have all of the functionality of SAP Business One. However, it does require you to either have it installed locally on your computer or access it through the remote desktop. With the introduction of the web client, what we are seeing is the ability to have a no install access to SAP Business One. This can be secured through SSL and published so that you have the ability to access it anywhere in the world, both internal and external. And again, it continues to work alongside, we'll see that a little bit later, alongside the SAP Business One core client. So all of the business logic is identical. So we're looking at the same data structure and the same data sets, with inside of SAP Business One. All of the logic exists. And this is all being enabled by something called the service layer from SAP Business One, which those of you who have been running HANA may have known. We've had the service layer available as a higher performance version of essentially replacing the DI API for years, but it's now available for SQL. So all Business One customers are going to be able to get the benefit of working with the service layer, and as a result, being able to work with web clients such as the one from SAP that we're looking at here. Now, in addition to the SAP provided web client, we also have the ability to work with Resolve web clients. And so again, this is where it's very exciting, because what we now have the ability to do is to offer the same SAP Fiori look and feel that we just saw on that web client for the Resolve clients as well. So when you're working with Resolve, you'll be able to have the exact same experience using it over a web browser as you would with the web client from SAP Business One, to be able to enable your extended functionality in supply chain and distribution. And so while this has been available for HANA for a while, it is very exciting that with version 10, we now have it available for SQL. And as you can see inside the SQL version, we now have all 16 modules available, and you can start to see some of the new modules that have now become available for the SQL-based clients once you've upgraded to SAP Business One version 10. Of note, one of the biggest changes is the warehouse management system, which is the screenshot that we just saw before. It provides you the ability to have a responsive-based, Fiori-based interface that can run on modern scanners and also laptops, tablets, cell phones, again, in and outside of the office and everywhere. In addition, you'll notice we also have the field view client. And so the field view client is also a web client. And here you can see what the field view web client looks like. The field view offers a different set of capability that's organized around field service and repair. It offers dispatch and asset maintenance. There's some great industrial intelligent industrial Internet of Things, or IIoT, that's in there. And one of the things that's particularly interesting about the web client is, even though it's a web browser-based platform, it does offer offline mode support. So you have a lot of people that are doing field repair that might be going into remote locations or not have consistent access to the internet. And so just because you have a web client doesn't necessarily mean that you must be persistently connected. And the field view web client is an example of a web client that's going to be able to work through that process. So next, I want to get into the highlights of specifically what's new for SAP Business One version 10, Feature Pack 2202. As you may know, the 2202 is delayed. It was supposed to have been released back in Q1, but only just recently came out in July. And a reason for that was there was a significant amount of effort put towards from SAP into security improvements and audit. So SAP is committed to making sure that we always have all of the latest and greatest requirements met for being able to meet the standards, I don't know if it's the ISO standards, but whatever the standards are to be compliant with security measures for enterprise and small and medium-sized business companies. And so this was SAP Business One's turn. And while everything went well, they did do a lot of work to try to be able to improve security and make sure, as we're working through this architecture, that you have the ability to know that we can meet any of the audits that would be required. So to that end, though, it is an area where in order to be able to get access to the latest security enhancements, it would be something that you would want to consider upgrading to the latest feature pack, again, the 2202 feature pack, in order to be able to make sure that you access the newest SAP technology. Of course, there was additional functionality added as well, more than what's just on this PowerPoint. So there is documentation from SAP that describes everything that was updated, but these are the key highlights. One that's very useful is the ability to refresh your financial reports without having to exit them. So if you are working on, let's say, a profit and loss statement, and you go and want to see updated data because there's new transactions, you can simply refresh them. Also, in a similar way down here, just going out of order, you'll see there's a new keyboard shortcut, the Control-Shift-R keyboard shortcut, which will also do the refresh button that had been added in the SAP Business One core client a while ago, the refresh button. But now, rather than needing to move your mouse up to that button, you can simply just press Control-Shift-R, and it will refresh whatever screen you happen to be on. Another thing that was added is the ability to see the price list and number inside your marketing documents. So as you're working on a sales order, for example, you'll be able to see the source price list. Support for the latest version, again, going into security, but also functionality, the latest version of SAP Crystal Reports. So again, the 2020 SP2 version. And probably one of the most exciting is the release that came out in May. It's available for free for SAP Business One, is the automations or bots that SAP has released. And these bots are very exciting because they can automatically extract attachments from emails. So if you're getting purchase orders from your customers or invoices from your vendors, the system can automatically read the email, decide to extract it, automatically categorize the the file based on what it is, then be able to read that file using artificial intelligence or AI, and actually be able to do things like create a sales order automatically from your customer's purchase order, even if it's just a PDF that isn't structured. Be able to capture proof of delivery if you got a signature when you're shipping something, or if you've imported it from a freight carrier. Upload the supplier invoice and do automatic matching, so it will find the goods receipt PO and be able to match the goods receipt PO to the AP invoice that it creates. Update master data records, so if there's new information that we discover about a business partner, a new contact, or something else along those lines, as well as also being able to automate the creation of activities, so you can create a follow-up workflow. So again, these bots, very exciting, and it's just the beginning of more automation that SAP is releasing. And these bots work with obviously both the core and the web client based processes. And then another one that's in here is the ability to define your user-defined tables inside of SAP Business One. Now you can actually have them appear on a menu. So inside of the SAP menu, you can choose to have them show inside the core client or the web client, or you can choose to hide them. And so it's just a simple checkbox when you're working with the user-defined table. You don't need to create and register an object to be able to have the table show up. You can just choose them to show on the menu. And then again, going back under security, when we're working with attachments, you have the ability to block the attachments that are executables. So again, Word documents, Excel documents, all of those, get attached, but we can block somebody from having a program where when somebody would then go to review the attachment later, it's potentially dangerous, and we don't want to be able to have that that execute automatically. So again, there are additional enhancements that are around server and security and back office things, but these were the ones that I wanted to highlight for you that are available in the core client. Now, as we get into the web client has several key enhancements as well. And again, inside the relationship map, which we'll look at when we get into the demo, we now have the ability to see payments. You can actually do attachments directly from the web client, just like you would in the core client. So the documents will allow us to be able to take pictures and also to upload files. There is native support for barcodes. So the barcode field on the item master can be used. And now on, as you're creating sales orders or purchase orders, the barcode field is made available to you. And so you could, of course, use a wedge scanner or just enter in the barcode information. And then similarly, we'll take a look at the BP catalog numbers for that during the demo process as well, so that we can see that. The service calls and the service functionality of SAP Business One has been exposed in the web client. But what's exciting now is that inside the priority of the service call, that can actually trigger the push notifications. So we'll look and see what a push notification looks like, but we can actually have it be assorted based on priority, not just on order of entry. So again, the way that your messages and alerts would look inside the core client, if you're familiar with that, in the web client, you have a similar functionality that will now be ordered by priority. For being able to work with incoming and outgoing payments in the web client, you now have the full ability to basically do all of that banking functionality. So it can work with credit cards, checks, cash payments. Work using the business card scanning. Previously, the business card scanning was introduced only for customers. Again, that uses AI or machine learning to be able to have you take a picture of something like someone's business card and then have it automatically create a business partner. Now we can choose whether or not that business partner will be a customer or a vendor. As we get closer to being able to have feature completion of the web client, we now have the ability to start doing configuration. So inside of administration, within the configuration, you'll see that app, and then that configuration is also exposed by allowing you to have the define new in the drop-down boxes. So as we're selecting fields, you'll be able to see define new. It will open up to the configuration screen. And so if we needed to add a new shipping type or something else along those lines, we'd be able to do that from the web client as well. And then what's nice is the setup dialogues are also grouped by module. So even though it's one screen that's going to be the configuration, you'll see the different modules that will be exposed, and it just keeps everything neat and tidy and organized. Talking about the roadmap, so as we go forward, this is where SAP is taking it. And I thought that this particular quote from Maynard was very powerful. So it really talks about SAP's commitment to SAP Business One going forward. As you can see, SAP views Business One as a centerpiece of its strategy, of its mid-market strategy, and that they are working diligently to make SAP Business One fit for the next generation, for the next decade, by enabling the digital services and the business technology platform. And what's really exciting about the way this is being approached is the technology that's being released for the SAP stack of ERP clients. And of course, you have the S4, S4 Cloud by Design and Business One in SAP's ERP portfolio, is all kind of starting to be centered around the SAP Business Technology Platform. It used to also be known as the SAP Cloud Platform. And that business technology platform allows SAP to create these services like the ability to read the PDFs, so we can import the invoices and the purchase orders and those things. And when they create it, it's going to now be available for all of the ERPs. And so Business One is going to be able to get the benefit of staying at the lead of any of the digital technology investments that are done for the S4 and other ERP products. They'll all be made available as a shared component. So that digital strategy of being able to use the service layer as the basis to connect out to this is going to continue to be important. And this quote comes directly from, just so that you can see the timeliness of this, from the August release of the roadmap. So SAP just released a new roadmap document in August, and this is the SVP who is basically the head for SAP Business One. As we look at what has happened, the Feature Pack 2202 was officially released on July 4th. So a happy birthday to America present. We got our new Feature Pack. As a result of the delay that was put in the security investment, Feature Pack 2205 is being skipped. So the next Feature Pack will actually be 2208, and that is expected to be released at the end of the third quarter. And so again, as we start looking into literally very end of September and into October, would be when we would expect the next Feature Pack, which will be dated as of 2208. A couple of key innovations that have happened both in 2202 and some of the ones just immediately prior. Of course, continued work on the web client and analytics, and we'll be talking about the analytics, but support for HANA 2.0, as well as the upgrade to the Linux platform for SAP Business One version 10. That business technology platform process that I was talking about, this one's a key one, the document information extraction service. So this is what's enabling the purchase invoice scanning and the business card scanning. That is something that is easy to set up inside of your SAP Business One. They basically check a checkbox and you fill in your login information, and it will be able to work with that. The release and the adoption of the automation bots, which can really save time. So they actually have time studies. It's not just data accuracy and efficiency in terms of making sure you do things like have activities to follow up with new leads, but it really can save time, not just in the data entry, but actually interpreting the email, deciding what you're going to do with it. All of these things can now be pushed onto the computer to get it to be done for you. Continued expansion into the Microsoft 365 and Teams integrations. So with the web client in particular, you'll have the ability to push some of those analytics and share them within Teams freely. And of course, probably one of the biggest ones for SQL customers is the availability of the service layer for Microsoft SQL. So now you are starting to really start to see some parity in terms of the new feature releases for SAP between SQL and HANA. HANA still does, for the people that have invested in HANA, have some HANA exclusive functionalities such as the enterprise search. So SAP is committed to continuing with HANA, and there will be certain things like the intelligent forecasts and those things that are going to remain as HANA exclusive. But as we go into providing the web client and the enhanced analytics that the web client provides, and as being able to use the other web clients like the Resolve web client and the FieldView web client, the SQL customers are certainly, welcome to start taking advantage of that with the service layer. There are some really great planned innovations that are coming up, and in planned innovations, these are the ones that are expected to come out in the next release. I didn't really go further than the next release. Again, I didn't put SAP's normal disclaimer on here because I'm not SAP, but SAP obviously has the right to delay change and do anything with any of these. So please take this with being reported based off of the documents that SAP has shared. But they continue to expand the web client functionality. And so as we have already payments and purchasing and service, we're going to start to see additional functionality around production and more analytics functionality. Again, there's a commitment to being able to release more of the intelligent enterprise and intelligent ERP elements, such as more bots, more rich and robust integration into Teams and Outlook 365. And then these two here are particularly, actually these three here are particularly interesting, and I kind of want to explain them in a little bit more detail. So this first one, SAP has created a product called the Footprint Management for Clean Operations. This is an SAP product that's shared again across all of the ERP platforms, but it's designed to be able to help you track your compliance with carbon emissions. And we're starting to see customers finding this increasingly important to their operations because their supply chain contribution into the carbon footprint is either being measured by if you're B2B, by your customers because it goes into the end product, or if you're business to consumer, you're starting to see customers starting to demand more accountability and trying to lower the carbon footprint. It's a fairly straightforward product from SAP, but what's nice is that the integration from SAP Business One into this product is being included natively. It should be available in the next release. And so we'll automate the process of you being able to track and report on your carbon footprint, both from the inputs that come from your supply chain, as well as the outputs that you have in terms of delivering that. So if that's something that you are interested in, either for your own company or because you're being requested from other people in your chain, please keep a lookout for that, and we can share more information about that particular product. Another really exciting announcement comes around in the United States, the sales tax. So if you weren't aware, SAP had introduced something called Tax as a Service, or TAS, in probably a year, maybe 2 years ago inside of SAP Business One. And that came from the SAP Tax Service. SAP is going to be retiring that. So if you're using that currently, it's another reason why you will need to upgrade to be able to continue working with that. They're retiring that at the end of November. But what is exciting is not that they're retiring it, but the reason they're retiring it is they're going to move it from being an SAP-based service to one that's being hosted by Avalara, which is one of the leaders in sales tax. It will be more accurate, I believe, in terms of being able to work with, the rates that are from Avalara service, and it's going to be completely free. So you will be able to have the Avalara functionality for free. If you're currently using Avalara through an add-on, you can continue to use that add-on. It just doesn't necessarily stop you from using the add-on. And if you are using Avalara for extended services such as filing, you'll continue to work with Avalara. But if you just want basic sales tax compliance of being able to calculate the sales tax rates, that will be free. And again, is an exciting announcement that should be coming up in the next patch level, or I should say feature pack. And then this other one here, the support for advanced authentication with the OIDC, that's a fancy way of being able to say the single sign-on. So the ability to be able to work with a sign-on that is based off of your Active Directory, based off of open integration. So if you wanted to be able to use a social platform or some of the other authentication tools, and it's also going to allow you to be able to completely disable the SAP Business One login, work with these external authentication services, and enable two-form factor or 2FA authentication. So this is going to be a big step, particularly as you're starting to see, web client and other things where, the sign-in is not necessarily inside of your office on a computer that you control. Having this ease of use in terms of being able to control the authentication aligned with your other, single sign-on capabilities and 2FA is going to be a big feature that we should also look for in the next patch release. In terms of the roadmap, SAP continues to identify and commit to the roadmap. You can see we're at 2025 and beyond. So we continue to be able to work with the cloud, with the mobile apps, as well as SAP Business One for both SQL and HANA. And they've updated the view here of SAP Business One as the digital core. So we've been talking about SAP as a digital core for a while, but you can see we've gone beyond having the ERP at the core and then using the big data and the Internet of Things to also start to be able to include through the SAP Integration Hub some pre-built integration to e-commerce. So there are several e-commerce platforms that you can integrate to directly from SAP, being able to work with new business models that are being supported through the web client and other capabilities. The bots taking advantage of robotic process automation or RPA, as well as machine learning. And then we also have voice-based and intelligent assistants. There are several things that SAP has published. If you'd like to work with Alexa, or something else along those lines, we could do that, as well as social integrations. So again, it's just an underpinning of how SAP Business One is going to be able to sit at the core and rationalize and maintain all of your data and security, but you can extend it. And with that, I'm going to transition into the web client. So as we look at the web client, there is a fantastic website called learnbusinessonewebclient.com. So again, I know this will be shared out to you, but again, learnbusinessonewebclient.com, excellent documentation and videos on the web client. And as you can kind of see here, the picture of the web client, if you haven't worked with it before, it is a totally new user experience based on the Fiori principles, encapsulating Business One process and logic into navigation tiles easily accessed from any browser. So that's the goal. The goal is to be able to bring all of, by in the next couple of updates, all of the functionality that was in SAP Business One in terms of documents and functionality into the web client. Not necessarily done in the same way, and we'll see that they've tried to improve that, but we're really getting the best of all worlds. And so here again, you can see right now the current focus has been on CRM, sales, purchasing, and service. It does work both for on-premise and in the cloud. So even if you're an on-prem customer, you can still have the client and be able to push that out internally or externally from your own system. And it continues to work side by side with the traditional SAP Business One core client. I've been emphasizing this, that it's available for both SQL and HANA. And it includes support for the extensibility. So user-defined tables, objects, user-defined fields, as well as some exciting things like the URL mashup, which I'll show today, and some personalized apps that you can have. Again, as you can see here, the idea is that the different functionality is given so we can create and update documents. We can work with and update the processes such as activities or opportunities, approvals and drafts. We have much more sophisticated charting and analytical capabilities than was previously available without HANA. And then even with HANA, there's some additional functionality. Again, starting to be able to really utilize it for daily functionality with the ability to have journal entries, BB catalog numbers, the configuration, and to be able to personalize it with your notifications. In terms of the analytics itself, what we're going to be looking at now is the ability to work with something called a list view, which gives you the ability to start by taking your data and then be able to bring it into charts and views. A general overview, which is a card-based view, and these will be easier to see, but these are your cards over here. So you have cards that represent different dashboards. Here's a list view. And then finally, we also have the ability to expose the user-defined queries or UDQs. So these come from your regular query manager, but we can modify them inside of SAP Business One. They can automatically be sent by email, very easy to export to Excel, and exciting, you also have the ability to use them as linked views so that we can take the SAP-based general view or user-defined queries and link them to business partners, item masters, sales orders, in a way that if you've seen the HANA where you've got the analytics tab, you'll be able to do something similar with the linked views in the web client. So to that end, thank you guys for putting up with the PowerPoints. I'm sure you guys will be excited to come in and see the web client. What I want to do is, again, just show you here. I am logged into an SAP Business One SQL database. So this is what we're going to be working with today. And again, just looking at some of the enhancements that are in here, just so that you can see that they do work with both of them. If we look at, for instance, the user-defined table setup, this field over here is one of the enhancements that we were talking about. So if I wanted to be able to take one of these and make it available, so let's say I wanted to look at the version table and make that available inside the web client, I can simply hit update in here, and then that will make it so that it will now show up in the web client as well. Now, what's exciting is you can launch the web client by pressing the tile right from here to be able to open up the web client, but you don't need to at all. You can actually also just use the web browser. And in the web browser, you can have a shortcut that just takes you directly to your login. And once you log in, each person that logs in will start to be able to get an area called the My Home, which is the different tiles that you want to personalize. So again, you can kind of think of this as your cockpit. You can choose areas from different functionality. This is all based on the Fiori technology. So as you resize the browser, so if you were using this on a tablet or even a cell phone, the system will automatically resize to be able to work with the device form factor that you're working with. One of the other enhancements I didn't talk about is they did start to release improved functionality for 4K monitors. So both in the core client and the web client, you'll be able to take advantage of your 4K monitor technology. You can personalize this. So if we come into your person tile up here, we can easily find apps that we want to be able to add or take off of our homepage. You also have the ability, even for SQL, to be able to look at recent activity. So you can look at the documents that we work with. You can also look at frequently used and see the areas that you're working with. So the system is automatically maintaining this information, and we'll be able to work with that throughout the process. So you have that. And if you prefer to work with a traditional menu, you can also hit your hamburger menu, and in your hamburger menu, be able to get the traditional menu structure. And then as you can see within the traditional menu structure, as we expand something, so as I expand extensions, it will just bring it down, and we can actually work through the extensions and the other areas in the system. So my home, so on and so forth. Beyond that, there's also the notifications icon. So in your notifications icon, if you click up here, you can see it's telling me there's two. You can see here I have the two notifications. One is telling me that I have a meeting. The other is telling me that I have an approval that's waiting for me, and we'll come into the approval later. But you can also see that it can be done by priority. So if we had this, you'd be able to see the different priorities. And of course, these are interactive. So I can click on it. It took me into the activity around this meeting. And then anytime you want, you can actually just either click back to take you back where you were, or home to be able to take you into that home functionality. Based on settings, you can also have it so that they just always show up over here. So rather than having to look for your messages, those messages can show up on the right-hand side for you. As we're looking at this, again, you can see we have the different functionality for home, CRM, sales. And if I go into sales, you can see it slides down. Again, you can choose your different functionality here. And the way that the web client works is that you have the ability to look at your existing documents, so your existing sales quotations, your existing sales orders, and see how many you have, as well as being able to create an order or a document. So I'm going to come into my existing sales orders, and again, you can see there was 259 of them. And when the sales orders come up, it actually brings up a list view. And the way that the list view works is that you have the ability to have your data filters. Oops, I'm going to get logged out. That was just because I had the thing open for too long, and it was the first one that we had clicked into before we were using the PowerPoint. So it will, for security purposes, actually sign you out and time you out, and I was probably pretty close to the half-hour mark on that. So again, I do apologize about that. Within the list view, you can see the different sales orders that are in here, and you can use these filters. So if I wanted to see open versus closed, or if I wanted to filter on the user, so these are my sales orders up here, you can see I can actually toggle between my sales orders, all sales orders, just sales orders that are on back order. And so again, these views will automatically allow you to toggle between the different values. And as we're working through the different data, what will wind up happening is the filters up here, you can change them as well. So you can go into adapt filters and then be able to change the different filters that you have, and then just hit go, and it will bring up the list. So in here, if I wanted to add more things to the filter, like a contact person or something else like that, you can actually change that just like you would a form settings. When you want to actually open up a document, you can simply just click on it and it will take you into the sales order. And then the sales order itself is going to allow you to be able to edit this. And so the depends obviously if the document is open or closed. If it's closed, it obviously follows the same rules as you would have in the core client, or you can't modify a closed document. But we will be able to come in here and edit the view. As we edit the view here, you can see there are a couple of different things that we see. So first of all, it will show me the total of the document, the fact that it's open. I can see information about MaxTech. If I click on MaxTech, I'll actually get a pop-up so I can see information like their business partner balance, and we can control what we see, or I can even hit view more, which will take me into the actual business partner master record. You'll notice that there's also activities, so I can create a new activity or see any related activities that were created for this particular sales order. So again, that functionality is going to be in there, where we can see that there was a validation that was required. And again, I could go back and see that or drill into the activity if I wanted to. And this particular sales order, I've actually done a partial delivery on. So I can also use the relationship map, and the relationship map will show me all of the different documents. And again, you can drill into the delivery or the invoice into this relationship map. So we can see if it's open or closed, and this is a partially opened sales order. As we go down into content, you'll see here that I have the ability to see the item picture. We're going to talk about the barcode and the item number. And so if I want to be able to edit this, I can simply just go into edit mode. And then as we work in edit mode here, you'll see that this list view changes, and I start to be able to see the different fields. So first, if I want to be able to search by barcode, I can scan or enter a barcode in here. And so if I was just working on that, I'd be able to come in and say, okay, I want to find everything that's starts with G. I want G star. And I hit go, and that found my barcode, and I can simply just go ahead and choose that, and that will bring in a new line. You can also do the same thing with BP catalog numbers. So if we've got the BP catalog numbers in here, you can enter the BP catalog numbers and they'll show up. The other thing that's going to wind up happening is you'll see here this item, okay? Right now, if I don't have sufficient of them, I can also go into the alternative items. And in the alternative items, you can look to see what you have available in the different warehouses. So as I look in my different warehouses, I can see here are some additional items that I have. Maybe I want to grab this one, so I can go ahead and hit choose. And this will actually change the part number on the row. But also it will update so I can see what the original item was. So this will become A3, the picture will change, but there's another column that will see the original item number as well. So you can keep track of the substituted item. So here's the original item, okay? Of course, you can change quantity and price, tax codes, warehouses. You can even select serial or batch numbers as appropriate. Working with logistics, you can change ship tos. You can track ship tos and actually see the map. I can define a new ship to directly from the order, which is actually something you can't do in the core client unless you have an add-on. And then, of course, we also have the ability to do attachments. So this gives me the ability to come in and browse and upload an attachment. So anything that I wanted to be able to attach, I can bring that in here. And we have the ability to work with the user-defined fields. So as you can see, working with the sales order is fairly straightforward. And it's really quite useful in terms of being able to do things like updating the addresses, seeing if it's correct by looking at it on a map, being able to work with the barcodes, business partner catalog numbers, and the alternative items functionality, all from the one screen. Now, next, what we're going to do is to come in here and just go home again. And I want to take a look at some of the other functionality that was created in here. So we had gotten a notification earlier that there was actually an approval that we needed. So again, that notification came up. It also shows down here that there's an approval decision that needs to be made. So I've got one document that's waiting 2 decisions. So I can actually go in and see the documents that are requiring approval. And so this will show me the documents. Of course, I can drill into, click the wrong one. I wanted to go into the ones that I need to approve. So I need to make a decision on 2 documents. And in here, you can see it shows me a quote that Bill entered that's asking for manager approval. I can drill in to be able to do that, or I can simply select all the documents and choose approve. And then that will actually allow me to be able to approve documents without having to go back into the core client or anything else along those lines. So those updates then get notified back to the user that entered it, just like you would in the core client. Beyond approvals, let's take a look at the extensions and the core analytics. So as we're looking at extensions, you'll see in here that you have the ability to create new options on the menu. We can also do the same thing in here by going to extensions, and it will scroll down. So if you have things that you want to add, such as being able to have a pop-out window that takes you to an intranet portal, or in this case, some more information about Resolve. If you'd like more information about Resolve, you can have it be a link that pops out, or you can actually have it be something that gets embedded directly into the web client experience. So here you could see if we had somebody that was working with our FieldView Cloud product, you have the ability to work and log in or reset password or do anything else that you want to do directly inside of the web client experience. And then, in terms of the user-defined fields and tables, again, here you can see the user-defined objects show up, the pick history shows up that we enabled before, and that is, an area that is pretty straightforward to see, but it's useful because you can really work with additional objects that you may have created in your particular company. In terms of configuration, the configuration screens are organized by module, like we talked about. So if I go into inventory, here you can see shipping types. We talked about that before. Shipping types work just like the other list views, where you're coming in and you can see the shipping types that are in here. If I want to change it into edit view, I now wind up with the edit view, and you can work with these, including user-defined fields. Again, even in your edit views, you'll be able to use these filters that are up on top. And then moving into the analytics. So let's go into analytics. There's a couple of different ones that you really want to be able to see. So first, let's take a look at the general view. Now, the general view is a list of cards that SAP has provided. And of course, like anything else, you can add or remove cards. You can clone the entire general view here, but this is actually showing me the details of everything that's happening. So you can see I have invoice totals by month, opportunity value, my top 10 or top 20 items, how much I've purchased. And so these cards show me the value of what's going on. Now you can have multiple views up here as well. So I'm looking at the standard view, but if I wanted to see just the last 4 quarters, I can go in here and change that, and it will refresh this data to be able to show me just the last 4 quarters. So you can actually create multiple views inside of your values. And you can actually email these or save them as a tile. So if there's a particular view that I want to make personal and not have to keep going back to each time, I can add it as my own personal tile or send it as an email. And of course, we can edit this as well. What's wonderful about having these analytics is now if I go into the linked views, the linked list views, what this is going to give me the ability to do is to work with the objects inside of SAP Business One, like the business partner. And then in my business partner, I'm now able to extend what we see on the business partner master to include data from those card views or from user-defined queries. So in here, you can see the list view that I chose was the general overview, but you can come in here and choose other values that you want to be able to work with. And so this includes user-defined objects as well that I want to connect with. And then in my view, again, you can see the standard or the last 4 quarters. I could choose which I want to be able to do. I named this overview figures, and then you can see I was able to map the different charts that I wanted into this, so I can choose different values and then be able to map them to what I want to link them to. So I can choose again, item number and then link it to the item table or something else along those lines. Once you save these views, the next thing that winds up happening is if I go into an actual business partner, so let's go into our business partner. And again, what winds up happening is inside the business partner here, you can see I'm able to go into a customer like Parameter Technologies. And in addition to being able to see all the information that's already on the business partner master, you'll see on top, we have the ability to now choose our views, and any of the views that show up will now be filtered automatically based on the business partner code. So this business partner code will get passed through into my overview figures view, and I can see the cards that are related specifically to this customer. And that could have been, for the invoice totals and the like. One thing that's kind of really interesting about with the analytics is this can also work as data. So you can actually come in here and multi-select. So I can come in here and say, what do I want to see? And I selected these 3 values, and I can actually look at the details. So I can see what made up that. I can export it to Excel directly from the card view. Again, you can do the same thing with heat maps, your top 20 items. So these are interactive, and you have the ability to work with those. Now, again, when we're looking at extending this functionality, you'll also see underneath the analytics that you have the user-defined queries, and those user-defined queries, you can come in here and see any queries that you've already created. So you'll be able to expand those. You can actually create a new one from scratch if you want. But if you want to execute a query just like you would inside a query manager, you'll be able to come in here, see a query, you can duplicate it. So if I want to make a modification, you can link it to different subtables so we can get views. But if I just want to be able to see the preview of this query, you can see the results. This is like hitting execute on a query, and the results of my query can be saved and then shown as a tile on the screen. So what's neat about this is that I have a grouping for this query. Not sure, I guess I'd have to hit preview button. So in here, this is just the raw data. And so you can see all of my raw data just kind of being displayed, like a query. But once you've got the user-defined query in the system, you also have the ability to come in here and save it as a tile. So here you can see I have the PO details, but what I've now done is I've changed the way this view is done, and you can see it as a ranking grouped by vendor or grouped by customer. I have it by customer for some reason, but in here I can see by year which vendors contributed the most. So again, you can come in here and see the detail for this, and we can see that it was vendor 1010 that did the most in 2021. I just exported that to Excel, or you could come in here and then look at 2020 and see that it was a different vendor that was contributing to our purchases. So I have the total spend was the 4.7 million, and again, a visualization of how much we spent, and then also my count to know how many purchase orders were done by this vendor. And so again, these are all customizations that you have the ability to work with. They're very easy to be able to work with. So you can go into your card view. You can also switch into chart view. And inside chart view, I can say I want to see information, let's say by vendor name, and maybe I want to see by year and quarter. Okay, so now you can kind of see the different visualizations and change your views and be able to work with this, including heat maps and other kinds of visualizations. So it's not difficult to be able to make your own viewpoints. This data can all be pushed to Excel, and if I want to be able to save this as my own tile, I can either save it as a tile for myself, send it by email to somebody, and be able to share any insights or questions that I have. With that, Sabine, what I'd like to do is to turn it, back over to you to open up for Q&A. So I'm just going to come in and we'll switch from demo into Q&A and see if anyone has any questions.
All right, Daryl, it doesn't look like there's any questions in the chats. I'll give people a minute. If they have any questions, just drop them in the chat box or the questions box, and we'll be sure to answer them.
Great. And then if there aren't any, then obviously, we just want to thank you for attending the session. We greatly appreciate you, looking into the exciting news from SAP, and we're happy to connect you with your customer success team. So if you want to reach out to your CSM, or if you don't know who your CSM is, please reach out to me, and I'll be happy to get you connected to them. And we can get you any information about any of the functionality that you saw today, as well as being able to tailor something specifically to you. And of course, as always, our mission is to make sure we help our customers run great. And we greatly appreciate you attending the session.